Hey everybody, Coach Dan here with the final race send-off for the Mob Mile powered by Nike Running. I have with me here a very special guest for this occasion. She kicked off training with us in Cambridge, Massachusetts at our first training session for the Mob Mile on now. She's back for some final words of wisdom to our larger digital audience. Maia Ramsden, welcome.
Hi, Dan. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. And for those of you who may not know, I'm not sure what's wrong with you for not knowing, but here's a little catch up on Maia. Maia is the reigning queen of the mile. She is a student athlete at Harvard University and the NCAA Division I 1500 meter champion. So we have an expert in the field of racing the mile with us for some intense questions around how to maximize your best mile. So let's start. This is race week for our Mob Mile athletes. And for you, heading into the biggest race of your life, or a race that you're really trying to perform well, what's on your mind when you head into that week?
Unfortunately, it's usually the race.
That's okay.
I think the growth I've had, hopefully it keeps going from last year to this year, was kind of figuring out a balance of thinking about the race and not thinking about the race. And I think last year my strategy was just to put it out of my mind that entire race week, race month, which is great until the day actually rolls around and you're forced to think about it, and then I would spiral. So this year I kind of tried to do a little more like what my mom would call it mindfulness. My coach has a slightly different language around it, but same idea of like, you think about it, you let the thoughts come in, you acknowledge them, and then say goodbye. I just try to make sure I keep busy about like with other cool things that I'm interested, usually non-running related things. And maybe I'll journal a little bit. Like when those thoughts come in, it kind of helps to channel them somewhere that's not just the void. Yeah, I would say that's kind of my biggest thing for race week these days.
I like it. It's sort of like a mindful awareness. I guess that maybe that's a little redundant, but just sort of like, rather than pretending it's not there, just owning that it's there and that you're doing the running things that you always do, staying intentional, and it's all part of a larger plan that you've been executing. It's here, and that's that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And like it is trying to kind of also turn the nerves into excitement, which can be hard, but also is a something that you can do yourself with your brain to be because I'm not a science person, but it's a similar chemical thing of like the nervous feeling is actually a very similar reaction to the excited one. So as long as you can put that positive spin on it, then you're good to go.
I love that, Maia. I say that all the time to my marathoners too, where, nerves, if you're nervous, it just means you care about something. And best athletes, it's okay to care. It's cool to care when you're going up for something big. And then I think the best athletes, of which you're one, certainly can take that nervous energy, recognize it as energy, and channel it into performance. That's the ideal, is don't let it sink you or turn you into chaos. Let it buoy you and channel it, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So when we have when our athletes are watching this, they will have one more workout, a rest day, and then the race. So when you head into your last taper workout, the closest workout to the race, what's your goal with that workout, let's say?
Oh, that's a hard one. I think the first thing has to be just completely detached from the outcome of that workout, because otherwise it's so easy to fall into a trap of like, oh, this is the closest workout to the race. But you gotta stop those thoughts. That is one where I'm like, you don't need to be mindfully aware of that one. That one you can throw it out right away.
Totally.
Like it's part of a bigger plan, and you can't necessarily see in that moment of the final workout where it fits into the bigger taper, where the rest day comes in. And then, so kind of, yeah, that's my first thing. And then also often you feel pretty good on that because you are tapering and you're getting ready to race, and usually it's shorter than than the workouts you might have done in the past. So also trying to just enjoy getting to do some of the faster stuff. And at this point, like the hay is in the barn. You're not actually adding anything to your race or your fitness. It's just one more box to tick. So then it's kind of like, hey, let's just have fun. It's not gonna be a like really painful one or anything like that.
Yeah, it's like it's almost like a serious celebration. Like you're not celebrating,
Yeah.
you're getting ready, but there's sort of a like last one, you're just like feeling good, feeling bouncy and doing less than usual and saying, you know, like I got this, I'm good. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
When it comes to the race, the mile, you know, your race at NCAA's was such a perfect execution of race strategy, especially against the competition. You know, for many of our athletes, it might not be so focused on the place per se or racing the other athletes. It might be a little bit more internal. So what I mean by that is they might be racing for the clock more than trying to win the NCAA championship. That's not up for grabs with the mob mile. But when you think of the breakdown of the 1500 or the mile, how do you think about it like per lap? Do you have an attitude or something you think about per lap heading in?
Yeah, totally. And I actually think something that like, how do I say this? The best part of that race for me personally, like reflecting on it, was that I just kind of did race for myself and not even the clock necessarily, but it sounds cliche, but did, you know, like run your own race and
Yeah.
didn't kind of get caught up when the first group went away. And so I think that also bleeds into my usual strategy, which you got to get out hard for that first kind of lap. I do tend to think the first 200 to 300 meters are free. Like you're not, unless you really are kind of going for the 200-meter world record, you're not hurt by kind of getting out quick and getting into a position and a rhythm that naturally slows down a little bit.
Yep.
So for me, that first lap is kind of a positioning lap. You're figuring out where you want to be, getting into the rhythm, and then those middle 2 laps, especially if it's a mile, like you kind of get for better or worse, 4 full times around the oval. Those middle 2 laps really are about finding a rhythm, staying super calm, and trying to kind of be as efficient as possible, not making any sudden moves, and kind of I know it's tricky in a big field, but like trying not to surge, and yeah, just settling. And then settling without slowing down, though. It's settle as like a take a deep breath, breathe deeply, keep the cadence going. And then I would say like 500 meters out, I start mentally, if not physically, preparing for that bell lap. Like with 100 meters till the last lap, you're kind of looking down at the finish line. That's when you got to start mapping your pathway through people. Like, okay, where am I going to make this move? And then different coaches, I would say, have really different. I would love to know your thoughts on like where the kick should happen, because I've heard so many different things. For me, I like 300 to go. Like I like to kind of build slowly through that final turn, like second to last turn, and then with 300 to go, start putting the hammer down, make some big gear changes, and then the last 100 meters, close it down. There should be nothing left at that point.
I love it. I agree. I like 300 too, because I think mentally, you know, it depends on the athlete, depends on the race. But for me, I kind of like 300 too. I just remember as an athlete, it's a little less daunting. You know, it's a straightaway, a turn and a straightaway. So you can maybe attack it a little harder than if you go right at the bell and you have a whole lap. I don't know, that it can kind of sting. It's a full quarter of the race, whereas 300, you're well under a lap to go, at least in my racing mind, even though it's 3/4 of a lap. It feels like well under a lap. It's just a turn, a straight, right? And you just gotta, it gives you time to move. It gives like some movement in the field. Some people can kick and die, and hopefully you can stay strong. So I support the 300-meter move.
Yeah, I also think sometimes like everyone's expecting a move at the bell. So sometimes it pays off to kind of let that move happen, stay connected to it, and then right when well, some people are probably expecting it, but some others won't be at 300. Then you make your move.
Totally. Okay, a couple other questions for you. Do you have any superstitions around your racing?
Oh, I definitely used to. Um, I used to have like one pair of socks that I'd always wear. And then, but they're like black and they're kind of high. And then we got to Austin and it was so hot. So I was like, I actually need to override this right here and right now, because my feet would be sweltering. So I wore like random white socks that I found. I think I got them at Target like the week before.
Nice.
And that kind of like took over that superstition. I like more of a ritual, because the superstition was kind of freaking me out. Like, oh, what if my socks aren't clean? And then it falls apart. But having some sort of ritual is really nice. So that's good. And then another one for me since coming to college has been avocado toast for lunch. Nice. Especially when you're nervous, I think having that like consistency makes it much easier. So I have some avocado toast, a couple eggs, and that gets me through.
I love it. I asked Paige and Anna, some of our just graduated collegiate athletes, for some question help too, and they had in there, do you have any mantras you say to yourself while racing? I'm going to loop that into, if you're willing to share what your mindset, or what did you say, your practice rather than a superstition.
Yeah.
So do you have any mantras during your race?
Yeah. I would say one I've had since I was really little. My kind of my first coach, who really taught me how to run, kind of gave me this one, and that stayed around, is just trust your training. And I think, like that one you have to have before you get on the start line, going into the last lap, everywhere. That just has to be ingrained. So I say that to myself a lot. Like, you're ready, you're prepared. Everyone's been doing this training all summer. Like, the work is there. And so I kind of say that one to myself. And then recently it's also been kind of, rather than taking people off the pedestal, like putting yourself on the pedestal. Like, you get on the start line and everybody has an equal shot at making this happen. So it's like, you've put the work in, and now you're on that line, and anything can happen. So put yourself up there on that pedestal, and go from there. Those are kind of my two things.
I like that. That's a very good one. Do you have any pre-race? Are you a music pre-race person? Do you have pump-up jams and artists you lean on?
I personally, like, not as much, but my team definitely does. Yeah, I would say my team blasts, like, we love to blast like fun pop music. So kind of last year it was a lot of Taylor Swift. This year we've had quite a bit of Ice Spice before races. Oh, nice. Like, anything fun that's going to put a smile on our faces. Recently I've been rooming a lot with a first year who's also from Aotearoa, New Zealand, and she's been playing a lot of like indie surf rock in the room when we're getting our like uniforms and bibs together, which I've loved. Like, never would have picked for myself, but the two of us will be in there kind of relaxing and pinning our bibs on our uniforms and that kind of thing. So I think it's fun when there's a lot of people around too, to have like a collective listening of something.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I agree. We'll be at the Mob Mile. They'll have I'll be DJing up there in the booth. So I'll try to incorporate some of that straight from the Queen herself. What's your favorite race shoe?
Gotta be dragonflies, the Nike dragonflies. I as you may or may not know, mine broke at the regional meet, and heartbreak saved me then, because those shoes are magic. Yeah, they're light and bouncy, and like, I was told the first time I put them on, you're gonna feel different, and I was like, sure, whatever, they're just shoes. And no, actually you do feel different.
Nice. Yes, I was very, very aware of that story, and the need to get them there. We shipped them overnight. They missed, and then for NCs, Kevin hand delivered because we couldn't trust the PO. So
that was the best day when I got Kevin. He was like, "The spikes are here." I was like, "Everything is going to be okay."
Pretty epic. Any final words of wisdom for our mob milers?
Oh, just have fun, like really seriously. And I think it gets to be, people say that like it's an easy thing, and it's not. Like that's half the battle, and that's where the work for me really starts. I think it's kind of, not to diminish the work that everyone's put in this summer, absolutely not. Like it's hard to show up and do the physical stuff, but you kind of get into your routine, and you've got your coach there, and all your training partners, they're on the track on Tuesday morning, and like that part becomes kind of habit. And now there's another hard part, which is kind of mentally overriding the nerves, and really just getting out there and enjoying it, and yeah, working for that fun, to make sure that you're smiling on the start line, smiling on the finish line. Yeah,
I love it.
excited for it.
Perfect send off. Thank you so much, Maia. Enjoy the rest of your summer. We're excited to welcome you back to Cambridge when you're on your way back here. Thanks for making some time for us, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, good luck, everyone.
All right.